Hello viewers, and welcome again to Discovering Truth, and I am Pastor Forbes from the Gateway Abiding Word Ministries here in the Gambia. Well, we have voted. We voted last Saturday, and today is Tuesday, and life goes on. Public holidays are over and we are back into action. I want to start what I believe will be a three-part series so I can have time to also talk about Christmas, because this is December. But I want to start a small, possibly three-part series entitled The Gambia, We Are One People and One Nation. The Gambia, We Are One People and One Nation. And basically I want to talk and share ideas and invite you to exchange ideas with me on our togetherness, our oneness as a people and as a nation. I remember pre-election, pre-voting, sometimes you'll see people who change their status on social media to say, I am Gambian. And occasionally, if they felt a particular tribe or people or gender was being vilified for something, they'll say, I'm a woman, I'm a man, I am Wolof, I am Jola, I am Mandinka, I am Aku, I am Fula, I am Serer, I am Karonika, etc., etc., etc. We are one nation, and what an eventful weekend we had, and possibly historic in its own very strange way. But as I said, we have voted, and the next step now must be national healing, must be thoughts towards proper, not just verbalized, but proper nation building. And in that, at the very outset, we must eschew, have no place in our hearts for hatred of any kind, ostracizing of any kind, or even feelings of entitlement of any kind. We must all come together like the various parts that make this my body work. Yes, you hear me speak, you see me speak, you see my gesticulations, my body language, but there's a lot you do not see that makes it work. And you all know, as I know, that if an organ is not functioning to its optimum, if I have an eye infection now, it would affect everything. It would affect me, it would affect the people I relate to. Watching me on the TV, you'll say there is something wrong with his eyes. And you know, when we have toothaches, there's a little teeth here, somewhere at the back, a molar, a premolar, a canine, and you know, you can't eat, you can't swallow, you can't even lie properly to sleep. Everything looks like the world is crushing around you. You don't want to hear noise, you don't want people to hug you, you don't want to talk loud, you can't brush your teeth, you can't swallow well, you can't gargle, you can't floss because of that little tooth. And as unimportant as it may seem in the bigger scheme of the skeletal, physiological, anatomical function of the body, that tooth can bring the body to a standstill. Even this little finger, and even organs that we do not see. And that's how the human body functions, typed to a community, a family, and for us, from where we have come from over the weekend, to a nation. We must understand that all the parts must function together for this nation to work well, because one part not functioning affects the total proper functioning of the body. Now, having said that, as I said, nation building, national healing. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a scripture in the Bible, and I've not taken time to read it for you, but it's in the 5th book of the New Testament, the book of Acts, ACTS, of the apostle, the actions or the doings of God through the first apostles. In the 17th chapter and somewhere around verse 27, verse 28, it said, God made of one man all mankind, all the nations, and he has apportioned aforetime where they should dwell and put their boundaries. Now, I know you believe in God. I know we are people who say we believe in God. If that is so, then God does not make mistakes. He rather gives us, more often than not, the seed form of everything else. The only people that had total fruit at birth, if you like, was the created being Adam and his wife, the woman, who later became Eve. They were not conceived from seed form and finally gestated to become fruit. God made them fruit. They became man. They rose up man, and God brought the woman, made the woman woman, and together they now started the process of life that always starts with seed, conception, insemination of any sort, and then later the fruitfulness ensues. So in God's wisdom and his foreordination, he has made every nation on this earth have its boundaries. And because God does not want the nations to fight each other, go to war, and the tribes to do all the kinds of unbelievable, hurtful things we see happen intranationally, internationally, intercontinentally, all the things going with finger pointing about virus and pandemics and all that, God in his wisdom has put a sense of self-sufficiency in every land. And every nation of this world has been given by the Almighty God two main resources. The first is the human resource, or you might want to say the human capital. The second is the natural resource. A natural resource can be resource under the ground, resource on the surface of the ground, resource on the atmosphere, or some nautical minds that are part of the boundaries, sea boundaries, air boundaries of the nation. There are nations that have capitalized their air boundaries. There are nations that have capitalized their sea boundaries before they get into international waters. And there are nations that have capitalized their land boundaries. Others have impeded, encroached, and that's why sometimes you can find a plane was shut down because they said it deliberately went into somebody else's airspace. Maybe because, according to them and their dynamics, it was spying. It was on a spying reconnaissance mission. I don't need to tell you about fishing trawlers, international poaching and theft and all that happens. I think the Gambia, we know that all too well. And by the way, that should be one of the things we must change if we're serious for nation building and prosperity. Because fish, which was very cheap in our country, is now becoming almost luxurious. For a nation that has a river that divides it in two on both sides, there is something suspect about that. But I'll take my time as we come to that, because we want to build a nation. So God has given every nation, the Gambia also, human resources and natural resources. And ladies and gentlemen, let me posit to us, fellow Gambians, fellow citizens, and those who reside here and love this country, that for this country to self-actualize in her prosperity, in her longevity, for abundance, for development, for legacy thinking, we must keep the order right. The order is not natural resources first and then human resources. The order is not infrastructural development first before the thinking capacity of the nation. It is the human resource that will be so resourced and capacitized, educated, trained, mentored, apprenticed to the point where we can appreciate the fact that already we are blessed as a nation, and then we start the process of one, discovering these natural resources where they are, like our river, like the friendliness of the people, like the tourism, like all those areas which we are grossly underutilizing, no matter the rhetoric that has come from our mouths over the last 5 years. And by the way, we cannot be a people who keep blaming Ebola, COVID, and now we are going to blame Omicron and we keep blaming. No, because other nations that we tout as great nations, Singapore, Dubai, that has just celebrated 50 years. 50 years ago, it was a total desert place. And you cannot tell me that they didn't have issues. That area, that Middle Eastern area, is almost like permanently problematic in one way or the other. But it takes a mindset. The Bible clearly says in the book of Proverbs, chapter 23, even though it's talking about a stingy person in verse 7, the statement is still the same. It says, for as he thinks in his heart, not just his brain, his heart, that is how he is. If he's mean inside, he's going to be mean outside, no matter what he or she says. And so from that ability to appreciate the goodness of God and the understanding that as a nation we are blessed, then we will embark upon a journey of discovering what is our natural resource from that capacitized human resource vantage point. And when we discover it, we will start developing it. That's the second D. And when we develop it, we will now deploy it. That's the 3D. And so the human resource must discover, develop, and deploy. And if you like distribute, you can throw that in as your first D. For the common good, as our national anthem says. So the human resource must appreciate the natural resource. If we have the order wrong, then you can build a skyscraper, and the untrained, unsophisticated, uncouth, infantile, destructive human resource will bring that infrastructure, that skyscraper, to its knees. And you see it all over. You build parks and they destroy them. You do anything. And it's not necessarily that the people are even bad. Sometimes it's the anger of lack, the anger of poverty, the anger of feeling disenfranchised, the anger of feeling ostracized, the anger of feeling put aside as minority. So people feel, well, they're going to grind the place to a halt. So for that not to happen, leadership is very key. Leadership must understand the balancing act role that they have and be able to steer and navigate through thorny patches, rocky places, unsmooth places, misaligned places, and still chart out a course for a national vision, togetherness, and oneness under God. So I will say in the next 5 years, we should build more our national capacity and also utilize, excuse the word, exploit positively to our advantage this Gambian human capital that we have that is even still resident in the country. Some have gone abroad, some have gone and retired, some have made other nations smile and are quiet, because the nation has not opened up to receive their resource capacitization. That must change. So that we will not become a nation that is always being babysat. We are being babysitted politically, babysitted militarily, babysat all the time. No, we have come of age. For crying out loud, we are 57 years. A man at 57 who is still a baby, putting on diapers, being babysat, has a problem. But it comes back to leadership. And whenever we talk about leadership, we talk of vision. When we talk of vision, we talk of sacrifice. We talk of example. We talk of an exemplary nature that if I can be what I am saying in abiding word, then abiding word will follow. And that is what we need at every strata of our life, particularly, definitely in our national life. Another thing about human resource, lest you misread what I'm saying, it's not just the intelligentsia I'm talking about. Human resource includes godliness, it includes humility, it includes respect for divergent, albeit even minority viewpoints and votes. It means contentment. It means not having a spirit, an attitude of entitlement, or a mindset that it has to be me. If it's not me, it will not work, either in religion, in tribe, in gender, or even geographically or politically. We must come together and bring these qualitative characteristics and virtues to make our nation what she can be. And when we have this put in order, and from that position, we now handle our natural resources, we will not be fighting over what sovereign wealth fund means. We will do it like the Norwegians do it. Everybody in Norway, from what I have read and listened to, can pick up a computer and know what they are worth. Can we have that level of transparency? And somebody say, hey, Pastor Loldu Fio, but yet we want the results of Norway. It's You know, my dear friends, the same methods will give us the same results. And no matter how we criticize others, what we say, until we change our own attitudes, our own mindsets, our own sense of patriotism and nationalism, and until we know that and understand and preach and scream and shout that we are one people, one country, the Gambia, under Almighty God, we will still keep having these problems. So the issues of our national challenge, the issues that maybe have manifested in voting patterns, they are not without foundation. We can go to the root cause and solve them. Again, leadership must do it. And I'm expecting, I am praying and strongly suggesting and counseling that leadership makes that move. Leadership takes that step. Leadership manifests that for the followership to see. When we do that, change, transformation, prosperity that we want will happen. And so leadership must be able to discern. Leadership must be able to know how and when to make the necessary transitions. And if the general feeling is that there has not been the true proper transition we expected from 2017 January to now, and we are moving from now to the next 2026 December, then it means that leadership must sit down and humbly, truthfully, introspectively, quietly ask what went wrong. Why did it go like that? And more importantly, how do we change this trend in our lifetime? And I will say, when a leader is committed to making these moves, we will begin to see definite, deliberate transitions, moves that reinvigorate power and fire into the government, with support personnel that possess the requisite skill sets to make the next 5 years meaningful. If those changes and transitions and moving around and offloading do not happen, then nothing will happen. I believe one of the traits of a leader is to be able to know when to shift gears, is to be able to know when, just out of time, either something is over or someone's strength and ability has capped and plateaued and they cannot take you to the next level, no matter how well-meaning, no matter how even nationalistic, patriotic, how nice and supportive and loyal people are. It takes more than those to push an entire nation. As small as we are, yes, but it takes more than that. So if the next 5 years are going to be radically different and positively so, with measurable progress that, excuse the phrase, even a blind man can see and note the progress, and the grief and the sighing and the complaint would have gone down, then it means that leadership must make certain key changes, key appointments, key thank yous, and become inclusive, bring from across party lines, bring from across your worldview, because success is not a function of always getting your type around the table, whether in color or in gender or in persuasion or in geographical demographics. Leadership is because God has made it in such a way that all the resources of Gambia cannot be in Banjul. All the resources of the Gambia cannot be in the Baribus. All the resources of Gambia cannot be in CRR and URR. There is something CRR has that Western region needs. There is something that Western region needs that will only have sense when it intermingles and interfaces with Banjul. There is something the Northern region cannot do until it touches KMC. That is how God makes it. So no one people or no one region can boast and be proud. You cannot. Because when the tooth aches, everything comes to a standstill. If an eyelash were to come into my eye now, I will have to postpone this recording or keep trying to get it out while I'm talking to you. And you'll be distracted. You might even think it's my mannerism of speaking, but it will be a tiny eyelash. And after some time, this eye will become red. So we need each other. And so for the expert, optimum, efficient, and excellent push of our country for the next 5 years, while we consider that we are one people and one Gambia, the picture that is being painted by leadership must be a picture that everyone can see and say, this is national. This is representative of the aspirations and the hopes of our people. Because in retrospect, leadership has sat down and thought, okay, we could have been better here. We will do better next. But it is evident that the strength, skill set that brought us this far cannot take us for the next 5 years, especially either when people don't reinvent themselves, train themselves in a very fast-moving technological age where even the citizenry yearn and thirst and hunger for more because they see next door. They see 2 doors away from next door. They see globalization and they see possibilities. They see Singapore. They see Dubai. They see South Korea. They see the Bahamas. They see Cape Verde just around the corner. And they see Mauritius. And they know it's possible. If they could do it, we can do it. It's all about leadership. Let's prove that we are far better than people have seen us. As I said, I don't want my country to be babysat militarily, babysat politically, that until others endorse what I do, it is not right. No. I've passed that stage in life. And if I personally has passed that stage in life, what about the nation? 2.3, 2.4 possibly million people. So let's make it happen, Gambia. Let's put our differences aside, join hands together, work together for the progress, advancement, and prosperous turnaround of this beautiful smiling coast called the Gambia. We've had the name. I remember, and I say this with some amount of emotion, once I was walking out of a restaurant and there were people not from my country, of course tourists, and 2 gentlemen were walking off, and the lady sat down and said to them, all right, enjoy the smiling coast. And then she said, even though it's a crying coast now. And when she said that, I was passing, and I stopped, turned, and I looked at her, and I said, it is not. I will never allow other people to define my country for me. But having said that, I must not live, practice, do things that make other people characterize or mischaracterize my country by my actions. And so, if the smiling coast is going to be a reality, if tourism will boom, fishing will boom, everything we want will boom, we must first of all bring together the human resource base and capital that can envision prosperity as they have done in companies, institutions, private sectors, the UN, World Bank, around the world as they have done. Do it for home, for God, and for country. But that also only happens when leadership trusts you and allows you and does not micromanage for political gain. As I said, ladies and gentlemen, I believe in leadership. Sometimes you must make a decision that might be for the common good, even though it's at the cost of your personal political ambition. I repeat, there comes a time in leadership when we all, parents know that all too much. Your children get to grade 12, some things you're supposed to be doing, family parties, outings, you cut them down, and daddy and mommy become teachers because that child has to pass. So it's not about you. There are great mothers and fathers in this world who withhold their personal pleasures, family vacations, travel. I want to buy a bag, a wig, a car. I want to do that. And they say, but let us put it all for the kids' education. That's good leadership. And on the national scale, when we look at the 7 regions and the diaspora, whose input must never be trivialized by anybody, because we see $650-something million for the size of our country is not a joke. And so actions and rhetoric must now shift and be realigned into honor, respect, humility, appreciation, and drawing resource to come on board so that we all work together. I think it is one of the American presidents who said, it is amazing what we will get accomplished when nobody worries and cares about who gets the glory. And if leadership wants legacy, then that's one of the things we must think of. That in my time, in my tenure, this is what I did. People boast about Singapore. There's always going to be one name that would be there. But it's not just that one name. It's that one name being able to open up and bring in skill sets and strengths to complement his or her weaknesses and all that, so that the picture is painted properly. So let's come together. Let's work together. Let's join our hands together. Let's become charitable, extend olive branches to one another, hand of fellowship and continuation for the continuity of the development of our country. We voted, it's over. And let us remember, we are one people, one nation, one country under God, the Republic of the Gambia. May God bless us as the journey starts, and maybe officially in January 2022. May God bless us and keep us. But we have no reason not to prosper. We have the natural resources, we have the human resources, and the human resources are capacitized to global levels. Let us open the door so that the fullest expression of our collective ability can come forth for the common good. May God look upon our nation with mercy and bless us with his grace and his divine favor. Until I come your way next week, by the grace of God, this is Pastor Forbes saying, have a good day. May God bless us. And weeks ahead, Merry Christmas in advance. God bless.